Okay, here we go, recording. As you know, we record, or I record, so that whenever you happen to be gone, can't attend, you can always watch later. That has helped a lot of people. I always get positive feedback on that people are able to watch when they have workmen in the house or have to be in an appointment or what have you. Y muy buenos días. Feliz martes. Happy Tuesday. Feliz martes. ¿Sí? Momentito. I need one extra thing. I need one extra thing, as you may need one extra thing. So what I'm going to tell you as your preview, if you have a little photo or somebody you're going to introduce, make sure you've got that handy. I'm going to give you a moment to look for that. And the other thing you will want to have handy today will be either on your computer, or if you printed it out, this little screen with all those pronunciation words. And these are just sample words for practicing pronunciation, nothing more than that. But whether you pull it up on the computer or as a printed page does not matter. Last week, para que sepan, just so that you know, last week we covered all of the vowels. Okay, vocales, vowels, A-E-I-O-U, A-E-I-O-U. Today, later on, we're going to really cruise through the Y or the Y. Sometimes this has two names, this letter Y. The che and we're going to start to cover these sounds that are different from what you expect them to be. They won't be like what you expect from English. Okay, so we're going to cover a lot of letters that are not what you expect later today. But we are not going to start with that. We are going to start with more practice-oriented, practical things, talking about all kinds of conceptual stuff and how we use them from the first two chapters. And we do have a few new people today. So, para que sepan, so you know, this is the textbook. If you are coming in later in the course, in lesson 2 here, and you can't get a copy easily, if there are stock issues, just let me know via email and I can send this to you. But again, make sure that you're that you have that downloaded audio that corresponds with the book. If you don't know where that is, shoot me a quick email sometime today. And every time you encounter a blue word, a word in blue, all those blue words, whether they're phrases or single vocabulary, the audio will pronounce those words for you so you can hear them. The most important thing you can do is listen to a lot of Spanish. So make sure you listen to the audio with the book. The second thing I'm going to remind you is that besides the book, a really great thing to do is to go on duolingo.com and don't pay for a monthly thing. Do the freebie version and just march through. You know, if you have time for only 2-3 lessons a day, that's all you need to do. You can spend as little as 5 minutes per day, as much as, you know, a couple hours. Wow, if you've got that much time in a day to listen to various things, they break them up into vocabulary. Duolingo is excellent for acquiring a lot of vocabulary very quickly, and it will go through a lot of vocabulary we have in chapters 1 and 2 in the book, because number 1 and 2, you will notice, family, la familia is in chapter 2. So it will cover lots of helpful vocabulary to get you up and going. ¿Sí? Bien. Okay. A ver. ¿Qué vamos a hacer? What I'm going to do today? Vamos a repasar primero. Primero vamos a repasar. First, we're going to review. How do we greet people at different times of the day? Just real quickly. If we're talking about, I'm all reversed. talking about this time in the morning. How do we greet people with this? It's
Buenos días.
buenos
Buenos
días.
Yes.
Buenos días. Buenos días goes all the way from, well, you know, when the sun comes up till noon. And at noon, we switch over. At noon, we switch over from buenos días to greeting people with
Buenas
Buenas
tardes.
tardes.
buenas tardes. And it's
Buenas
important to
tardes.
know that buenos días gets buenos, right? And
Buenos
buenas tardes is
No.
buenas tardes. And unlike where we live, buenas tardes is everywhere from noon till whenever it is the sun sets. So really, like this time of year, it's going to be about here. But you know, once you get into spring and summer, buenas tardes goes all the way up to a siete, sí. Sometimes that far, but usually around 7-ish. Okay, whenever the sun goes down is when we stop with buenas tardes and we start with
Buenos noches.
buenas noches. And like buenas gets a buenas tardes, buenas noches gets a buenas.
Buenas.
Okay, and that's because the word dia, day, is considered masculine. We'll talk about that a little bit today. Nouns in Spanish fall into one of two genders, masculine or feminine. Okay, so when we say, because días, days, is a masculine noun, we have to say buenos días, but tarde, afternoon, noche, night are feminine nouns. We have to use buenas noches, buenas tardes.
Buenas.
Bien? Bien? Okay.
Bien.
And how you greet people otherwise, how you introduce yourself, okay, or how you greet and say, how are you, is highly dependent on which you you're talking about. So we're going to kind of review what that you thing is, because it's going to become quite important. See, es importante, it is important. Okay, you should have noticed from the videos I sent you to watch, and if you didn't, I'll just kind of remind you, Spanish and many other languages as well has more than one way to express you. And in Spanish, it breaks down to whether it is a familiar you, meaning somebody you would call by their first name, basically, which is tú, T-U, with an accent mark, tú. Or whether it's a formal you, usted. Usted. And tú doesn't sound or isn't spelled anything like usted. They're completely different words, even though they both mean you. But we use tú in specific situations. Whenever, you know, the good rule of thumb is if you can call the person by their first name, they're going to be tú. If it's somebody you don't call by their first name, it will be usted. And if in doubt, whether you address somebody with ¿Cómo está usted? Or ¿Cómo estás? How are you? Which you to use, always default to the more polite, to the usted, okay? Because for them, that whole piece of being polite is super important. So, okay. Vamos a repasar. We're going to review what it means to use the different yous and see if you can distinguish when we use the correct you, okay? We used to have these distinctions in English and no longer do. Uy, perdón. Okay, you should be able to see my use. Tú, usted, ustedes. There's the plural you, ustedes. And what the heck is vosotros? You will not use vosotros unless you go to Spain, by the way. Spain is the only place where they use vosotros. Vosotros is the plural of tú. It is the ustedes, the plural you, but the plural of tú, the familiar one. In Spain, they use it all the time, all over the place. I had to learn to use it when I was a student, but people in Latin America never learn. Well, they know what vosotros is. They know it when they hear it, but they don't use it ever, and they consider it annoying. Because every verb that gets a form has to have a vosotros form, and they're like, oh, seriously, we're not using that. So, okay. If your travel is in this hemisphere, you do not need vosotros. Therefore, we will give it kind of cursory attention. A ver, okay. So just a little fun fact, usted, usted is sometimes abbreviated to UD. That does not mean we pronounce it ud. We have to pronounce it as a whole word. Just like if you see MR period, you don't say mer, you say Mr. Yeah, we pronounce the whole word, even if you see it as abbreviated, which you may. So usted gets abbreviated to UD period, and ustedes, the plural, you guys, gets abbreviated to UDS, because that S tells you a plural thing. Okay, so when you're pronouncing, say the whole word. And that word usted really morphed from something way back in the Middle Ages. You know, in the Middle Ages, there was like a ruling class and the rest of us bushmucks, and that was pretty much it. And the rest of us were owned or worked the land of more important people. Yeah. So the upper class that actually owned land, you know, you wouldn't address that guy who was your boss, upon whom your whole livelihood depended, as, hey, you buddy, because yeah. So it was vuestra merced, your grace, and that morphed into usted. So, okay, let's see if you can tell when to use tú, when to use usted. If you said you to any of these people, if you were addressing them, speaking to them, because you is always a form of addressing somebody directly, whether it's one person or a group, okay? It's not talking about people, it's talking to people. So which you would we use if you were a kid, talking to a teacher?
Usted.
It's usted. Okay. And they're very much sticklers for this, of course, not in this situation, because we're not that kind of student teacher thing. But in regular school, it's considered a real slap in the face if you do not address the instructor as usted. I do not expect that with you guys. Okay, so usted for that. The guy who lives next door. Tú, because you probably know him by his last name. Yeah. Okay. Tú. If the teacher's talking to all the students,
Ustedes.
it'll be ustedes. It'll be ustedes. Ustedes. Bien. A ver. You're in the grocery store. Checkout line. Usted, even if he's got a tag saying, hi, my name is Carl. No, you don't really know him as Carl, okay? Usted. In all store situations, whether is the store owner or talking to you, or you talking to the store owner, usted is what is considered polite. The exception to that would be if you go into the same grocery store every single day, every single week, and you know the people because you see them every single week, it may flip to tú in that situation. Okay. Grandma talking with grandkid talking to grandma. Tú. In most family settings, it's tú with family, okay? Regionally, that may differ a little. In Colombia, por ejemplo, in Colombia, they use usted with family, oddly, but most places family is tú. And also, by the way, if you talk to one little kid, even if you don't know the little kid's name, talking to little kids expect to be addressed as tú, little kids, to any adult, even if they don't know you. So, okay, it's the familiar. Okay, a whole bunch of kids. Ustedes, because they're more than one and we don't use the vosotros thing. Okay, business setting. They are greeting somebody they're going to have a meeting with. This guy would be
Usted.
Usted.
Usted. He talking to the two of them.
Ustedes.
Ustedes, perfecto, perfecto. You're talking to a little kid. Will she be
Two.
She'll be tú, even if you don't know her, because kids expect to be spoken to with tú.
Ustedes.
Yeah, usted. Yeah. La Reina Isabel. Well, yeah, Queen Elizabeth, you wouldn't use tú with her. Off with your head. Off with your head. Okay. You're talking to people in a business meeting.
Ustedes.
Ustedes.
Ustedes. And yeah, ustedes. Really both the
Two.
situation ustedes. Here, well, if you were only talking to one, the people you invite to watch a game with you, if you talk to any one individual, it might be tú, but all of them together it'll be ustedes.
Ustedes.
Now, in Spain, this group would very strictly in Spain be considered vosotros, you guys, the friendly you guys. In Spain, but in Latin America, they do not use vosotros. So, para que sepan, just so you know. Excelente. Y hay más? No hay más. Okay, entienden. You guys have that part down. Entienden, no? So whether we use for greetings, ¿cómo estás? ¿Cómo está usted? Depends on who we're talking to. And by the way, when people address you with ¿cómo está? And they mean ¿cómo está usted? They may drop the word usted. Just be prepared. If somebody's looking straight at you and they say ¿cómo está? They're asking you how you are. ¿Cómo está?
Muy bien. Muy bien.
Bien, right? So our answers to ¿cómo está? Or ¿cómo están ustedes? Is, well,
Muy bien.
it could be bien. Well, muy bien, very well.
Muy bien.
Okay, it could be más o menos. It could be más o menos, more or less, meaning, you're not great, but you're not terrible. We don't usually tell people I feel crappy. I mean, right, that how are you? People always expect to hear, I'm okay, right? You may even hear regular. Regular means okay. Regular, it sounds like regular, means I'm okay, not fabulous, but okay. Regular. ¿Sí? Normal. Okay. A ver. Bueno, I will, just to kind of reinforce, send you a new video with the homework email this week with this lady in it, and she will kind of condense what you heard in the first video into a little bit simpler form. I just found this video actually this week, although it's been out for a bit, and she goes through top phrases for greeting people. ¿Cómo estás? Now here's what I'm going to tell you. ¿Cómo estás? When you get an S on the end of estás, there's the friendly, how are you? ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás? That S that is tagged onto a verb is an action word. And I know how are you are is not really an action because it's a state of being. ¿Cómo estás? When you hear an S at the end, it means they're addressing you as tú. Okay. The verb you use with the tú form, that verb gets an S at the end. ¿Cómo estás? If we take the S off of estás, we get the polite, how are you? ¿Cómo está? So if somebody walks up, looks at you like, ¿Cómo está? It's the same as ¿Cómo está usted? They may just skip the word usted. Notice in ¿Cómo estás? We never say tú. They don't bother to say tú. Okay? Sometimes we say the word you, sometimes in Spanish, we may skip the word you. And why do they skip the word you? Because in English, we can't say how are. We have to say how are they, how are you guys, how is he, how is she. In Spanish, the verb estás already says, I mean you, buddy. So they don't need to say the word tú directly. They will tend to skip the word tú often. Okay, ¿cómo estás? So you'll hear a lot of those descriptions in that shorter video for this week, and that will just kind of reinforce. But we're going to talk today about we're also going to talk about introductions, okay? How to greet and introduce people. And we're going to do a little preview of that. The way we introduce ourselves is something that you always do very, very early on. And there are a number of ways you can introduce yourself actually in Spanish. But the way you introduce is to say, what's your name? Yeah.
Me llamo.
Yeah. And this right here, ¿cómo se llama usted? ¿Cómo se llama usted is what's your name? The familiar form for that, would be, right. ¿Cómo te llamas? And why my stuff is not lining up, I don't know, but ¿Cómo te llamas would be the familiar form. Now, you as a traveler are not going to use ¿Cómo te llamas very much unless you're talking to a little kid, right? The form you're going to use because you want to be super polite, yeah, because by being polite, you encourage people to want to help you, is ¿Cómo se llama usted? ¿Cómo se llama usted? But notice this se llama is what we call the verb part. Se llama is called or calls oneself. ¿Cómo se llama usted? They may drop this word usted if they're looking you straight in the eye. Okay. But notice that se llama is called is the same to talk about a one person, ella, which means she, or a one person human, if you mean él, he. So we use se llama to say what's his name, what's her name, talking about this many people, or the polite you, okay? ¿Cómo, how, cómo se llama usted, okay? ¿Cómo se llama usted? And the way we reply to that question ¿cómo? Is one of three different possibilities. Either me llamo, my name is, literally me llamo means I call myself. But in English, you don't hear people saying I call myself because that sounds weird to us. Like that's kind of stilted and formal and weird. So we just say my name is. But in Spanish, there are three ways that people may introduce themselves. They may introduce themselves with me llamo, mi nombre es, literally my name is, or soy. Soy means I am. Okay.
Soy.
I would like somebody to ask me what my name is. Alguien, somebody, be brave.
Usted.
¿Cómo se
bien.
llama
¿Cómo se
usted?
llama usted?
Me llamo Marilyn. Me llamo Marilyn. Or mi nombre es Marilyn. Or soy
Soy
Marilyn. Bien? Okay.
Mm.
So what you are going to do very, very soon is to introduce yourself and one other person. Now, the one other person part is what's going to be hard. Me llamo is not that tough, right? Or soy with your name, not tough. Soy Marilyn. Me llamo Marilyn. Mi nombre es Marilyn. But when we talk about somebody else, it can't be me llamo anymore. It's got to be se llama, the same as in the question. So if I were to talk about this guy, yeah, Se llama Hugh Jackman. Or I can say es Hugh. Su nombre es Hugh.
Nombre es
Those are
Hugh.
all three perfectly great ways of saying his name is. To introduce him, to talk about who he is. Bien? If I want to talk about this guy, I can say, not me llamo, because that's not my name. Not me llamo, but se llama.
Se llama.
Se llama
Se llama
Tom
Tom.
Hiddles.
Hudson.
Or I can say,
Es Tom.
es Tom. Or I can say, su nombre es
Su
Tom.
nombre es Tom.
Nombre es Tom.
Mi nombre es Tom.
So if I talk about one person, in this case, each one is a guy, se llama, I might say él, he. Él is the word for he. Él se llama Hugh Jackman. Él se llama Tom Hiddleston. If I talk about a lady, it'll still be se llama, that same verb, because I'm talking about only one human being. Se llama Jennifer Lawrence. See? But I can also say es Jennifer. And I could say that even better if I had my fingers on the right keys. Es Jennifer. See? Su nombre es Jennifer. Okay. Vale, bien. If I talk about this lady, es una actriz, sí. Se llama Scarlett Johansson, sí. Bien. Es Scarlett.
Yes, Scarlet.
Su nombre es
Su nombre
Scarlett.
es Scarlet.
Bien. Okay.
Su nombre es
Three
Scarlet.
different ways they can all be used to say, oh, that's what that's who that person is. Bien. Okay. Vale. I am going to put this screen up here. Oh, no, I'm going to put this screen up here because that's usually the harder one for people. Bien. So if I talk about myself, see, yo, me llamo Marilyn, soy Marilyn. Es mi hija. Ella es mi hija. Se llama María. Se llama María. Bien. Y es mi hija. Do any of you have a little example of somebody? Be they a pet? Bien, vale, bueno. Charles, you want to begin? ¿Quieres empezar?
Me llama Carlos. Se llama Elena.
Bien.
Es mi esposa.
Es su esposa. She's his wife. Ella es su esposa. And I want you to notice, I am, in all of those descriptions, we're identifying who those people are. See, ella es su esposa. He is her, or she is his wife. I'm getting my pronouns all messed up. Okay, ¿quién más? Who else?
Okay.
¿Quién más? Bien, bueno, sí, Lynn. Igual.
Me llama Elena. Se llama Carlos. Es mi esposo.
Bien. Se llama Carlos. Es su esposo. He's her husband. Fantástico. ¿Qué más? Who else? ¿Qué más? Marcos, dinos.
Buenos días.
Buenos días.
Me llamo Mark. Ella es mi esposa. Su nombre es Hindi.
Su nombre es, and then we plug in their name. Excelente. Muy bien. Muy bien. ¿Quién más? ¿Quién más? Tomás.
Se llama Tom. Es mi hijo y mi madre. Se llama Nick y se llama Nani.
Okay. Oh, leave that picture up for a minute here. Un minuto. If I want to talk about two people, we haven't had this yet. So he can say, es mi madre, es mi hijo. He can say son. He can also say, he could possibly also say, they are my mom and kid. Son, mi madre y mi hijo. Just so you know, okay? And we're going to see a few of those soon, the son examples. Okay, Loretta, ¿tienes algo?
Yes, me llamo Loretta. Soy de Santa Luz. Tengo un familia, un padre, una madre, a dos años.
Bien, okay. Loretta, ¿cómo se llama una persona en la foto? Una persona. ¿Cómo se llama una persona? What's the name of one person? You're going to use
One
se llama and name just one person in your photo.
Una?
Una
Uno?
persona. Sí,
No.
yeah. Just pick one.
I don't know. What do you mean?
Just
Uno?
pick one
One
person.
person?
Give us one person's name in that photo, not the whole litany of names.
Oh, Henry? Uno
Okay.
Henry?
And now you're gonna
se-
add
se
to
llama
Henry.
Henry.
Se llama Henry. Se llama Henry.
Se
Bien.
llama Henry.
Bien, Loretta. Sí,
Good.
se llama Henry. Excelente. Bueno, a ver, Karen, ¿tienes algo?
Me llamo Karen. Se llama Jennifer.
Se
Es muy
llama-
bonita.
Ella es mi hija.
Bien.
Hija.
¡Oh! Es muy hermosa. She's beautiful. Es muy hermosa. Bien.
Gracias.
Vale, vale. Ok, perfecto, perfecto.
Okay.
¿Quién más? Who else has got
Me.
something?
Maida. Okay.
Okay. I couldn't tell who was talking, but
Maida.
okay.
Oh, I
Oh,
don't-
Mayra. Bien.
Okay.
Mayra,
Yeah.
sí.
Yeah, buenos días.
Buenos días.
Se llama.
Mi nombre es Maida. Esto es mi hija. Se llama Maika. Esto es mi perros.
No, should.
Ah,
Llamas Bria Bosley.
bien. Ok. Excelente. Gracias. Muchísimas gracias. Let me take my stop share off so I can see you a
Oh,
little bit better. Okay.
Oh,
Vale, mejor.
okay.
Bien. Sí. Sí.
Okay. Esta es mi hija.
Ajá.
Oh, sorry. Mi perros.
Y los perros.
Ah.
Excelente. Gracias, Mayra. Muy
De nada.
bien. Muy bien. Felipe, ¿tienes algo? Felipe, muy diferente. You got something really fun there, huh?
Mi nombre es Felipe y él se llama Romeo.
Bien. Un pájaro, bien. Bird.
Sí.
Exacto. Muy bien. Excelente. ¿Quién más? Who else has a little photo? ¿Quién más tiene una foto? Linda. Linda.
I don't know how you say son-in-law.
Oh, okay. Yerno. Yerno.
No.
Yerno.
So la hija and Jonero.
Close.
Mi yerno is son-in-law. ¿Cómo se llama el yerno? What's your son-in-law's name again? ¿Cómo se llama?
It's Dan.
Okay. So we're gonna,
okay.
see, put your
Your
se
mom.
llama in front of his name.
Se llama Dan.
llama Dan.
Se llama Dan.
Se llama Dan.
Se llama Dan. Es el esposo de la hija. Es el esposo de la hija. He's the daughter's husband. ¿Sí? Bien. Fantástico. ¿Qué más? Who else? ¿Qué más? ¿Qué más? Anybody? Sí, Candy next, and then we'll get Renee, we'll get Kathy.
Buenos dias.
Buenos días, Candy.
Me llamo Candy Milliburn. Yo vivo en Chaska, Minnesota. Aquí
Frío
es-
en Minnesota.
sí. Aquí está mi familia. Um,
Oh,
este es mi esposo.
Esposo, bien.
Este es mi madre. Este es mi padre. Este es
Yes.
mi hermano. Este es mi hermana. Oh, I'm sorry. Lo siento.
No, no.
Este es mi hijo. Este es mi hija. Esta es mi hermana. Esta es mi. I can't remember. Sobrino.
Sobrino, nephew. Muy bien, sí.
Esta es mi sobrino. That's it.
Bien. Magnífico. Muy bien. Gracias. Muy bien, muy bien. Renee, ¿tienes algo? Got something for us, Renee. Oh.
Mi nombre es Renee. Este es mi gato.
Muy bien.
Su nombre es Daisy.
Excelente. ¿Tienes un gato? You have one. ¿Tienes un gato?
Sí.
En mi casa tengo
Oh, no.
5 gatos. 5 gatos. I'm surprised I'm not being photobombed by one right now. Who likes to photobomb my session. Sí, bien. Excelente. Bueno, gracias. Kathy, ¿tienes algo? You have something, Kathy? Oh,
You're on mute.
can't hear you yet. You might be on mute. Check, make sure that you're not on mute. I know, it can be a little bit frustrating.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sí,
Sí.
Ah, sí.
perfecto.
Okay.
Gracias. Gracias, Kathy.
Sorry. Soy Kathy. Can you see that? Whoops.
Un poquito,
Yeah.
pero no es una foto.
Oh, no. Let's see. I'll do it this way.
Okay. Qué precioso.
Se llama Cora. Ella es mi sieta.
Nieta, granddaughter?
Yes. Sí.
Nieta.
Oh, nieta.
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 Bien. Excelente. Bueno, hay más. Anybody else got an intro? No. Okay, bien. Fantástico. We're going to see what happens in some other situations. Real quickly, muy brevemente, just so that you kind of know. We talked about se llama Hugh Jackman, se llama Tom Hiddleston, se llama Jennifer Lawrence, se llama Scarlett Johansson. If I talk about more than one person, instead of se llama, we'll put an end on the end of the llama. It becomes se llaman, their names are se llaman Blake Lively y Ryan Reynolds. Or instead of saying, okay, we had es Jennifer, es Scarlett, but now to say they are, it's son. Son, Blake y Ryan. Son, Blake y Ryan. Se llaman Blake Lively E. Ryan Reynolds. Okay, so notice little things happen with these things we
Yeah.
call verbs. You're going to find that as we go along. Okay, and the general rule of thumb that will be helpful to you is this. Me llamo is always the thing to talk about myself, right?
Mhm.
So that's when we're talking about yourself. Me llamo, right? Te llamas is when we're asking somebody in a tú, a you form, you know, your name. Te llamas. Te llamas. Se llama ay. Se llama is always the form used with usted, but also to talk about one person. So se llama talks about what his name is, what her name is, the formal, polite you, usted, right? And then if we want to talk about more than one person, we get llaman, se llaman. So if somebody is talking to a group that they would use a plural you guys with, like a tour guide has 4 people in his group and he wants to know, hey, what are your names? He'll use ustedes. ¿Cómo se llaman ustedes? Or if he's looking them in the eye, he may drop the word ustedes and just say, ¿Cómo se llaman? ¿Cómo se llaman? What are your names? Okay. And se llaman, it also, besides talking to ustedes, the plural you, talks about more than one person. Okay. So notice these little verbs are going to change into many more forms than what we do in English. And this becomes very uncomfortable for most people who are native English speakers because English does not use as many different verb forms. They're called conjugations. I don't care that you really know that one way or the other, but just get comfortable with when we start to pull together a whole sentence and have a subject and a verb. The verb in this case, name is, changes. So this N at the end always tells you it's more than one person. This little S at the end says talking to you, right? And the little vowel, the hanging off at the end talks about one person, and O means I'm talking about myself there, okay? And just so you know, there is a we form as well. Yeah, the we form is nos llamamos. Our names are nos llamamos. You probably won't hear that as much unless somebody is introducing their family, because nos llamamos means that I'm talking about myself, but about all the people with me. Okay, so in that case, you probably won't hear it as much. Okay, let's see some other examples where we might use se llama to name somebody else. Se llama Tom Brady. See? Se llama LeBron James. But if I talk about both of them together, it goes to this N at the end form. Se llaman Tom Brady y LeBron James. ¿Sí? ¿Bien? Bien, exacto. ¿Cómo se llama? ¿Cómo se llama? What's his name? ¿Cómo se llama? Avengers.
I don't know.
Iron Man.
Iron Man. Se llama Iron Man. Ay. Se llama Robert Downey.
Oh,
Sí,
Robert
pero me
Downey.
gusta, sí. Se llama Iron Man. Bien. ¿Cómo se llama? Now I've got to use. Son hermanos. They are brothers.
Oh, really?
¿Cómo se llama?
¿Alguien sabe? Somebody know?
No.
No.
Se
Chris
llama
Hemsworth.
Hemsworth.
Yeah, Hemsworth, yeah.
Exacto. Se llaman, how would we answer this. We're talking about all these guys. They're from, son de la misma familia. They're from the same family.
Family.
Son de la misma, the same, la misma familia. Okay. If I talk about all of them together, se llaman los hermanos, because they're brothers.
Hermanos.
Hemsworth, tiene L, is that an L or a Hemsworth? Close enough. Se llaman los hermanos, sí, Hemsworth, ¿sí? ¿Sí? Bueno. ¿Cómo se llaman?
Se llama Jennifer Lawrence. No.
Oh, close, you're so
Jennifer
close.
Lopez.
Jennifer Lopez, se llaman Jennifer Lopez
and Shakira.
y Shakira, hips don't lie, sí, exacto. Se llaman, sí, perdón, bien, se llaman. Sí, because I'm talking about more than one person, it becomes se llaman. Se llaman J-Lo y Shakira. Okay. Another thing we often use with introductions is where you're from.
Okay.
Right? See? And we heard a couple of examples of Minnesota.
De dónde?
Yeah. De dónde? De dónde es? De dónde es Shakira? Shakira
Colombian, I think.
es de Colombia.
Colombia.
See? Shakira is from. That word de means from. So the question, la pregunta, the question de donde es, from where is she? From where is she? That's the way they phrase it. That's the word order we would need in Spanish. De donde es. We would never say donde es de, where is from. It's de donde es. De donde es.
Colombia.
See, from where is. Shakira es de. She's from. Now, I'm not telling
Shakira
her
de
name
Colombia.
is. I'm saying she's from. Es de. Es de Colombia. J-Lo es de Estados Unidos.
Bronx.
Unidos, sí. Es de
Bronx.
Estados Unidos, yeah, Bronx o Nueva York. Más fácil, ¿sí? Es de Nueva York. So where you're from is es de, or where somebody is from, es de, right? The way you say I am from is soy de, and then the place. And that is I am from. So just as you might say, soy Tom, soy Ana, soy Carlos, right? Soy Marilyn, I'm Marilyn, but I'm from. Soy de. Soy de.
I am from.
Okay. I am going to give you the soy de that you probably need to use if you are traveling. We are very used to saying a state. Yeah, I'm from Minnesota, I'm from Michigan, I'm from Ohio, lo que sea, whatever it may be. But when you're introducing yourself to people in a different country, they might not be familiar with all 50 states. Soy de Rhode Island, could draw a blank. Soy de Delaware, could draw a blank, right? So usually we use the country. So I want to show you something because this is a tough word to tackle, but it's something you need to be able to tackle. Somebody asks, ¿De dónde es usted? Where are you from? And you want to say, I'm an American. Do not say ever, 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 I am an American. They will not like you. It will hit a bad note immediately. Do not use the word americano or americana. It is the kiss of death. And I say that very seriously, not as a ha-ha, yuck it up. Latin Americans do not look kindly on Americans who say, I'm American, because their reaction is, great, so am I. I'm American too.
Mhm,
The whole continent is North and South America. That's why they don't like that. It
mhm.
doesn't really tell what country you're from. It tells what continent you're from. So it isn't
Okay.
like super helpful. And it is in some places looked upon really a little bit offensively to say soy americano. So don't do that. I'm going to give you
Mhm.
2 ways you can say where you're from without offending anybody.
The
Okay.
United States.
But the way we need to do that is, ¿de dónde es usted? You can't use es to talk about yourself. That needs to change to soy. I am. Okay. Soy.
Sorry.
Soy de. Soy de. I'm from.
I'm
Soy,
from.
like soy milk,
I'm
soy sauce.
from.
Soy de. Soy de. And the
De.
most widely recognized way to say United States citizen is this word.
Estados.
I'm going to separate it. It's not separated. Estado unidense. I'm going to show you. I separate this because they're not really separate, because people, when they see this, freak out on me. They say that is such a long word, I cannot say that word. So we're going to take this word and split it into 2
Estado.
so you can pronounce it. Okay.
So,
Estado
Estado.
unidense.
Unidense.
Let's break it up into syllables.
Unidense. Mhm.
We're going to break it into syllables.
Unidense.
Estado
Unidense.
unidense.
Unidense. Estado
Okay,
unidense.
and you know what? I'm sorry. I messed up with this. I messed up because I'm getting my nationalities mixed up with my countries. So we're going to take this in 2 pieces. Soy, I am a US citizen. Perdón, I should have put in the country with de. ¿De dónde es usted? Soy estadounidense. Soy estadounidense. That means I'm a US citizen.
I'm a US citizen.
I'm a US citizen.
Soy estadounidense.
Estadounidense. Okay, if you absolutely cannot get out estadounidense, you can do this.
Norteamerican.
Norteamericano.
Norteamericano.
Soy norteamericano. Soy norteamericana. If you're a lady, norteamericana. That is also okay for I am a US citizen. Acceptable. Offends no one. Checks all the boxes. Gives the important information. Okay? Bien? We're going to give you yet one more, because actually this is how I started to write it, and then I messed up and got my wires crossed. So, perdón. ¿De dónde es usted? Can also be answered with the country. Estadounidense is a nationality. Okay. Norteamericano or norteamericana is a nationality. If you want to say the country instead and answer the question, ¿de dónde es usted? You can answer, soy de Estados Unidos. And most people don't mess up too badly on Estados Unidos, States United. Okay, so Estados Unidos is the country, which gets capitalized if you write it. Estados Unidos, soy de Estados Unidos. And that de word means from. Okay, the de word means from. Okay, so de gives you the country. Soy de Estados Unidos.
Estados Unidos.
Or nationality, not the country, which doesn't get capitalized in Spanish. It's estadounidense.
Estadounidense.
When people ask de dónde es usted, they're not expecting to hear your city or your state. They're expecting to hear the country. Okay. Soy estadounidense. Okay. Bien. Bien. Vale. Bueno. Okay. Magnifico, because these whole things of introducing who we are, that's kind of a usual thing when we first meet people. Okay, a ver, bum, 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 bum. Are there any burning questions you have from the greetings video I sent for homework? And remember, kind of ignore the parts where they have long sentences, because that doesn't help. It's the short ones that we care about. No, Nevin?
No.
Yeah. Okay. And we'll get a little bit more of these as we move along. We got to get on with some extra information about familia. Let's get some familia practice, and we'll do a little bit of pronunciation practice at the end. Okay. Otra vez a la pantalla. La familia. We're going to now introduce some ideas about family members. And some of you have already been using these family members. Okay. La familia. You may hear me use the verb I. There are like a certain number of people in a family. You might hear me use es, which means he is or she is. You might hear me use son, meaning they are. Those three words, I, es, and son, are all what we call verbs. I means there are. And, you know, there's a mom in the family, there's a dad in the family, la familia, right? There are 6 people in the family. We can use numbers with I. We can use specific people with I. Es only talks about this many people, right? And son talks about at least 2, could be 3, could be 4, could be up, okay? And you're also going to hear these words, cuantos or cuantas. We have the word quantity, which tells you an amount, yeah, in general. It expresses the idea of an amount in English. Cuantos and cuantas in Spanish, how many? Okay. So we're going to talk about these people. Vamos a hablar de estas personas. Y con la familia. Oh, we're gonna identify and talk about who these people are. And I'm going to describe some of these people. And I can't use now se llama as much because I'm not talking about names, but where they're from and what they're like and who they are in their family structure. So, Shakira es rubia, blonde. Shakira es rubia. Well, she isn't really, but you know, many of us aren't. Many of us aren't really. I'm in the same thing. Es de Colombia. She's from Colombia. Es cantante profesional. La, 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 la. ¿Sí? ¿Entienden? Es, she is. Es cantante profesional. Es baja. Es baja. She's short lady. ¿Sí? Es madre de 2 hijos.
2 sons.
She's a mom of
2 sons.
yeah. And this word de means either of or from. So es de Colombia, she's from Colombia, but es madre de 2 hijos. She's the mom of 2 kids. De means both of and from. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about both of these people. Shakira y Gerard son padres. Son padres. They are
their son.
They're parents.
Parents.
Padre means dad, but when I make it plural, it means mom and dad together. So padres might mean parents, but more often, padres plural is going to mean parents, mom and dad. Son padres. Gerard es francés.
Is French.
Sí.
Gerard
es futbolista.
Soccer.
He's a soccer player.
Soccer player.
That's his job. Shakira y Gerard están en Barcelona. They are in Barcelona. They are located in that place. They are there. Son ricos.
They're very
Son
nice.
ricos. Ricos are rich.
Oh, rich. Okay.
Son ricos. Rico has another meaning. Rico is also used to talk about food when food is really delicious. But here, son ricos, they are rich. Shakira y Gerard no son pobres. They are not poor.
Oh,
If I want to make this word
Poor,
son, they
rich,
are,
and
into
poor.
they're not, I put a no in front of it. We say they are not.
poor.
They say not, they are. No son. No will be in front of the verb, which is son. No son
No.
pobres.
No son padre.
No son pobres. Okay.
No son padre.
We're going to look at two more examples,
Pobres.
dos ejemplos más, two more, and we'll come back to this
Pobres.
next week, but we'll look at two more examples, dos ejemplos más. Now we're going to use I, because you're going to watch a video about I this week. I means there are. The only job that I has is to say something exists. It's around here somewhere. That's what the verb I means there is for this many things. I means there are for this many things, plural. I is always I. It never changes form. Like se llama became se llaman or te llamas. I does not change. It's always I. ¿Cuántas personas hay en la familia Obama? ¿Cuántas personas hay? How many people are there?
Are there in the family?
En la
There
familia
are.
Obama. And if I answer that, I would say, hay cuatro personas.
Hay cuatro
En la
personas.
familia.
Hay un padre, hay una
Hay una
madre,
madre.
hay
Hay
dos
dos
hijas.
hijas.
Hay dos
Dos
hijas.
hijas.
We're going to look at
Hijas.
another family.
Do we put the S at the end? Hijas? Or just
Hijas.
hija?
Sí, hijas. We
Okay.
put an S at the
Okay.
end. Sí.
Okay. Thank you.
Hay dos hijas. Hay dos hijas.
Okay.
¿Sí?
Thank you.
Se llaman, their names are, se llaman Malia y Sasha. ¿Sí bien? Ok. Vale. ¿Cuántas personas hay en la familia Bush? ¿Cuántas personas hay en la familia Bush? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
There are.
Hay 7.
7.
7. Whoops, ay. Right? 7 means 7. Hay 7 personas. Hay 7 personas. Hay un abuelo, George. Hay una abuela, Laura. Sí. Hay 2 hijas, Jenna y... ¿cómo se llaman las hijas? Jenna y Barbara. Las hijas de George y Laura se llaman, their names are Barbara y Jenna. ¿Sí? Hay un yerno, there's a son-in-law, ¿sí? Y 8, hay un perro. Hay un perro. Entonces quizás 8, maybe 8, yeah. Y 2 nietas, 2 grandkids, bien? And we'll come back to that in just a bit again next week, right? But our family relationship, our family vocabulary, la abuela.
La abuela.
Grandma, sí. El abuelo.
El abuelo.
El abuelo. La madre.
La
Madre.
El padre.
El padre.
La hija.
La
La hija.
Daughter. El hijo.
El hijo.
Hijo.
the son. And you'll notice where in English we have son and daughter, and those two words aren't anything alike. In a lot of cases in Spanish, not 100%, but in a lot of cases, we often just change the last letter on some of these words, like abuelo with an O at the end talks about a male,
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
older person in the family, and abuela is the feminine form.
Mhm.
Hijo,
Abuela.
winning in an O,
Abuela.
says it's a boy, and hija, daughter, says it's a girl. So that O and A thing is, oh, it's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing. And we can also extend that to the words for sister and brother.
Mhm.
La hermana,
Hermana.
ending in an A, indicates a sister, a female sibling.
Mhm.
But el hermano
Hermano.
Hermano.
is a male
Hermano.
sibling, a brother. So whereas English sister doesn't look anything like the word English brother, right? The words for brother and sister will look exactly alike, except for that ending at the end.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So what I'm going to tell you, más familia, more family. El tío, an
El tío.
uncle.
Tío.
Mhm.
Tío ends in O, it's a male, uncle, right? La
La
tía,
tía.
aunt,
Tía.
La
an
tía.
A at the end of that same word indicates the female relative aunt. So in many cases, not 100%, but a lot of them, a lot of these family relationship vocabulary, all you do is make an O at the end for the male person and A at the end for female person. And that indicates, that gives you clue number one to how we tell a masculine noun from a feminine noun.
Okay.
Some of the time, frequently. Okay, bien. And then we've got
Bisabuela.
las mascotas.
Grandmother.
Now, so here I'm going to tell you, la
Otras.
hermana is a sister, female person. Oh, and A at the end of hermana tells you female. Hermano, O at the end of brother tells you male. Oh,
Okay.
right? O at the end, male. A at the end, female. But all nouns, all things, not just people, all things in Spanish, all nouns are masculine and feminine. This is a feminine thing. It's a feminine word. I know there's nothing feminine about a cup, but the word for cup is taza, ends in an A. It's a feminine noun. It just is. Okay, this is kind of a lot to wrap your mind around, but all nouns, whether they are human beings or inanimate objects, have gender. Okay, so el reloj, a clock, is a masculine thing. It just is. And notice, el reloj does not end in an O, like hermano, like hijo, like tío. So not all masculine nouns will end in O. Sometimes you just have to know this word reloj is a masculine thing. Taza ends in an A, so pretty good guess that it's going to be a feminine thing. Pretty good guess. And look at this word on the screen for pets. Pets are mascotas. It looks like mascot.
Yes.
Mascotas ends in an A. It is a feminine thing. It is a feminine noun. Okay. But
Okay.
if I talk about dogs and they're both boy dogs, I'll go to the masculine form of that word dog. El perro. El perro is dog, one of them. And los perros will be the dogs. More than one of them. Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay.
What if the female dogs?
Yeah, I have the
Oh,
same
female
question.
dog. Qué buena pregunta.
Yeah.
Perra is a female dog. Yes, it also means that B word sometimes. Sometimes, yeah.
Go.
Oh, no, I've done it.
With animals, not always. Animals, it's okay. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So I'll give you an example. The word for horse is caballo. Caballo is a masculine word, but caballa is not the feminine word for a female horse because they use a different word there. Okay. Okay. Otro ejemplo, another example. The word for frog, la rana. Rana is a feminine word. There have to be male and female frogs, but there is no male word for male frog. How often, when was the last time you picked up a frog and looked underneath to see what? No, because that
That'd be a
doesn't
problem.
help. Yeah, that'd be a problem. La serpiente is always feminine, even though we know there are male and female snakes, but la serpiente is a feminine noun. So the animal kingdom is kind of an odd thing. Sometimes you'll have masculine and feminine because that male and female dog thing is cats. El gato, a male cat. La gata, a female cat. They do, yeah. So it'll do what tío and tía does, what hermano and hermana does, what hijo and hija does, but not all animals will. Depende, kind of depends. Okay. So, vale. But we will talk about perros, gatos, all of those things as we move along. Yeah, you will hear a little more of that as we move along. So, okay, a ver, bueno. I am going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to talk about some pronunciation. We're going to talk about some pronunciation because if I don't do this now, I'm going to forget about it. And that will be very bad. Okay. We're going to do a little bit of pronunciation. We'll come back to one more kind of grammar thing. Or maybe two little grammar things that will be helpful. So let's take a quick look. We're not going to do as much with pronunciation today as I had hoped for. I may leave you a little link. I would probably like you to do some one-on-one, just pronouncing something, like recording it on a set site so I can hear you pronounce these words, practice them. Yeah, but I'm going to introduce what they sound like. And we did these sounds last week, right? And getting these vowels is more important than anything else in pronunciation with Spanish, okay? Because if you mess up and say a different vowel, and the reason it's easy for us to do it is because our English, you know, those we have all kinds of vowel sounds, and Spanish does not have all kinds of vowel sounds. Each vowel makes only one sound. So it's always a, it's always it's always it's always o, it's always u. Okay, once in a while you will go silent, but not very often. Okay. Bien. I'm just going to breeze through these first two because these two are not hard. We're going to focus on the ones that are unusual, okay, or are different from what you expect. And normally I would have you go off and practice, but today, because I wanted to dig more into, like, you know, how we do a simple sentence, we didn't get as much time with this. But Y or ye, this letter Y is sometimes called ye, like yay. Yeah. Some countries don't use ye. They use for the name for that letter of the alphabet, Y, Greek I. I know, how weird. The ye has two possible sounds, but they're not really tough. So we'll breeze through that quickly. So I do want you to pronounce with me on these examples. If the Y hangs off of the end of the word, if it's the very last letter of a word, it's going to sound exactly like this. The Y will sound exactly like E. It will make that sound if it is the last letter of the word. So here's the word I. Here's the word I. And notice we're ignoring the H. I. Here's another hanging off the end. Hoy. Hoy. Today. Hoy. Here's the word for very, like muy bien. Muy. Here's something you eat in Peru. It is a delicacy. I know. Cuy. Cuy. Okay. So we're
Oi.
going to do this one a little bit together just because people might mess up on it. I,
I,
oi,
oi,
muy,
Muy.
kui.
Muy.
Okay, kui. Now, if the Y is in the middle
Oi.
of, or if it leads off, if it's anywhere else in the word, if it's not the last letter, if it's anywhere else, it'll sound like the ya you expect, okay? Mayo,
Mayo.
playa,
Playa.
oi.
maya,
Okay.
Maya.
and the word for
Maya.
yesterday, ayer.
Ayer.
Ayer,
Okay, that
ayer.
doesn't take a whole lot of practice. The chick won't take a whole lot of practice. It'll sound like what you expect it to. This is the only way that an H gets pronounced, if it's a CH combo. Otherwise, we ignore the H. So we've got chico,
Chico.
Chico.
chocolate,
Chocolate,
Mucho.
mucho,
Show.
rancho.
Rancho.
Don't worry about the rolled R yet. Rancho,
Chiste.
chiste,
chiste,
chicle.
Clay.
If you're of a certain age, you remember Chiclets brand gum. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Here is a letter that is a little bit different, starts to be a little bit different. D often is a D, but it will be less d. It'll be like, it won't be as hard as the English. And sometimes it goes downright soft. It goes to a TH sometimes. So, but here they're going to be just like a D, like you expect it to. Donde,
Donde.
drama,
Drama. Cuando.
cuando,
cuando,
grande,
grande,
Grande.
dentro.
Dentro.
Okay. A D like you expect, a little, not quite as D explosive, but yeah. Now, and notice these are always nestled around other consonants, not an A, E, I, O, U, but nestled around some consonants. It gets a d sound, or it leads off the word, so it gets a d sound. D sounds like a TH if it's sandwiched between two vowels, or if it's at the very end of the word. So these are going to sound like, the first D is going to sound like an actual d, but the second D is going to be at the end, so it'll sound like a th. So this word means truth, but it's another way of saying, really? ¿Verdad?
Verdad.
Yeah. Verdad.
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 verdad,
Verdad.
Here's another D that sounds like a TH. Cada.
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 Here's another D between two vowels. They'll sound like a TH. Puedo.
puedo, puedo,
And here's a D that's hanging off the very end. So it's going to sound like a TH. Libertad.
Libertad.
Libertad. Okay. Getting the D that sounds like a TH is not a make it or break it. It kind of marks you as a foreigner, gringo to a certain extent, but people will understand that you mean a D. You will not be misunderstood if you mispronounce and forget the TH sound. You'll be understood still, okay? Para que sepan. Bien. But here's something where you're going to be really misunderstood if you mess up. The H is always silent unless it's that CH combination. So when you see an H written out, we ignore the H unless it's a CH, okay? So we've got oi,
oi,
I,
Hombre.
hombre,
hombre,
and it's really important that that is hombre. Yeah, hombre, hombre, man. Honor,
honor,
honor. No matter where the H is, we act like it's not there. Alhambra. Alhambra, that's a place.
Alhambra.
And here's a word that is not hombre, it is
Hambre.
hambre. Hambre. And notice, hambre means hunger, hombre means man. So you are extremely misunderstood if you pronounce this word as bad hombres.
Yes.
That makes no sense to any Spanish speaker. They're like, huh? What the heck are you talking about? Hambre means hunger. Okay, the feeling you have. Hasta. Hasta luego, see you later, is literally until later. Hasta means until. Here's an H that's hard because it's sneaky, sitting in the middle of the word. So we're going to pronounce the O, we're going to pronounce the U, we're going to pronounce the O, and we're going to pronounce the A. Almohada.
Almohada.
Here's pillow. If they forget to put your pillow in your hotel room, almohada.
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 Almohada. Here is another sneaky H sitting in the middle of the word, but we have to ignore it. We're going to say an O right next to another O. So we're going to drag out the O, essentially. Alcohol. Alcohol is an important word to know because some people want to say in a restaurant that they don't drink alcohol, and people think that's normal, but they would like to know, your waiter, maybe, if you cannot have that. Alcohol. Okay. So H, ignore, and I'll give you a place to practice that and record it so I can listen to it during the week, okay, at your leisure. So whereas you expect H to sound like huh, but it doesn't, here's a word that does sound like huh. Here's a letter that does sound like huh. It does, okay? This letter is called jota. I do it as a very throaty H. Some regions, they'll do it just as a huh, but a very strong H. It's got to be kind of a strong H, okay? So you'll hear it almost sound like I'm gargling from that, okay? Here's the word for the part of your body, ojo. Ojo. Here's a word for something you eat, jamon. We change one letter in the middle of jamon and we get the word for the thing you use in the shower, jabon. Jabon. We get the word for short in height, bajo. We get this thing here, something you use to tell time. It can also mean your watch. But this is a tricky one to say. Reloj. It sounds a lot like the Scottish pronunciation of Loch, like Loch Ness. Yeah. Reloj. Here's a word we use a lot. Mejor. Mejor means better. Mejor, better. Mejor. Here's a day of the week with a J in it. Jueves. Here's the word for a female grown-up person. Mujer. By the way, people also use the word mujer for wife. If somebody says, they introduce somebody to you, es mi mujer. She's my woman. They really mean that's the wife. Okay. Mujer means woman. It means wife. And here's the word for to work. Trabajar. Bien. Okay. Bien. I'm trying. Oh gosh, I've got. Did I send you a video on the double L this last week? Yeah. Remind me. See, bien. Yeah. One thing to know is that there are variations on how this double L is pronounced. Yeah. This double L It used to be a separate letter of the alphabet. It is no longer. But when you see two L's together, they won't sound like an L at all. Okay. But in many countries, it'll sound just like a Y. But I have a little tiny bit of a J in with my J, so you know. And those are the two variations you should go for. Either Y, the double L, or Y, like a little tiny J with a Y attached. Okay, and you'll hear it in the way. That's my particular way. of doing it. The double L can also sound like J, but only in Buenos Aires. Not even in all of Argentina, just Buenos Aires. So don't do the J thing because that is very limited regionally. So this word here is llama. You can pronounce it as llama with a tiny J or llama. Either way is acceptable. And either way is easily understood. Here's the word for a key. Llave.
Llave.
Llave. Here's the word for street. Calle.
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 Pollo.
Pollo. Pollo. Here's the word for the thing you sit on. Silla. Silla. Here's the word for a color. Amarillo. Amarillo. Okay. Here's for if you're talking about a size of clothing. Talla. Here's another word with a double L. Llorar. Here's a word that means there. It points out that something is not close. It's there. Allí. Okay. Quick introduction just to the ñ because we don't have this letter in English. Okay, this one people don't have usually too much trouble with. Ñ is a separate letter. It is an actual separate letter. It's got a little thing squiggle over it called the tilde. It'll sound like the NY of onion. So most people don't struggle with this too terribly badly. Cañón. Yeah. Baño. Right? Daño. Niño. Año. This is a particularly important word. Año, year. Don't ever change that ñ to an N because then it's a part of your body. It's an anus. Ano is an anus. Año is a year. So don't get those two wrong. Okay. Here's the word for tomorrow or morning. It can mean either. Mañana. La mañana means morning, la mañana, but mañana without the la just means tomorrow, okay? Here's a size, not for clothing, but just a size of, this is a small size versus this is a big size, yeah? Tamaño. Next, we have this word for pineapple, fruit, piña. And the little thing attached to your finger, uña. And that's as far as we'll get with pronunciation today because we're right about at the end there. I'm going to send you a little link to practice some of these sounds, and I'll ask you to pick like 5 words out of each of those categories and just record them. And I'll put a link. It'll be a link. You'll go to a page and you'll see a thing where you just click on something to record. And you'll record your voice and it'll be pretty easy. Okay. Bien. But those are the sounds that are definitely not what you expect based on what you know in English. Not what you expect, not what you expect, not what you expect. And this one, we haven't even got that letter, but we do have a ñ sound like onion. So that helps us a little bit. Okay. I had hoped to get to plurals. Shoot, I didn't. I am not assigning a brand new chapter, except for just the first couple pages of chapter 3, but not all of chapter 3. Okay, so if you're new, because we have some new people in today, make sure you read chapters 1 and 2 of the book. And if you're an oldie but goodie, oldie for exactly one lesson, do look at simple numbers, which run on page 40, page 40. It's just going to do 1 through 20. Okay. I'm going to give you, no, I'm not going to give you a video. 1 through 20, you should be able to do on your own without a video, because I don't want to overload you. So look at just the very simple basic numbers. So, you know, everything is based on 10. Make sure you know the 10 numbers. Some people who live in Arizona already do, but not everybody does. And another thing I'm going to have you looking at is how to make nouns plural. So I'm going to just really briefly preview that. And I will send you this page, so you'll get this page to practice with. Okay. And here's how you make a noun. Notice I say not a verb, not an action, but a thing, a person, a place, a thing. How do we make nouns plural? It's going to be a lot like English, so it won't be a real toughie, but I'm going to send you a video with it anyway, because the video will also start to introduce that masculine, feminine bit, right? All nouns are either masculine or feminine in Spanish, and all nouns are either singular or plural. They're either this many things or, you know, multiple. The way we make a noun plural is pretty simple. We look at the last letter of the noun. If the last letter of the noun is a vowel, like Italiano, Italian person, okay, we add an S. Italiano becomes Italianos. So if the last letter of the noun, person, place, or thing, is a vowel, an A, E, I, O, U, and usually it's going to be an A, O, or E. It's going to be usually one of those three. If it's a vowel, just tag an S on the end. Yay, not so hard, right? Clock, clocks. Cup, cups, not too hard. However, if the last letter of the noun is a consonant, B, C, L, N, yeah, consonants, not A, E, I, O, U. We have to add ES. So Inglés, an Englishman, becomes ingleses, ingleses. We have to add an ES on if the last letter is a consonant. S is a consonant, okay?
Ingleses.
And then we've got this little tiny corollary, but it will only happen maybe 5% of the time or less. If that last consonant is a Z, we change the Z into a C first, and then we add the ES.
Okay.
But that doesn't happen a lot. So the word we give you to practice that is lapis, which means pencil. Lapis is a pencil, and lapis is lapises. And that Z changing to C is just a spelling thing, okay? Lapises, we still have an ES on the end. It's just that the Z has to change to C. There's a rule in Spanish, and the rule is Z and E cannot be next. Z cannot be followed by E. The letter E can't come after the letter Z.
Okay.
Who made that rule? I don't know. Somebody did like 1,000 years ago. No joke. So, okay. So most of the time you're going to be adding an S or an ES. And I'm going to ask you, I'll send you this page and I'll see if you can make these things plural. And you're going to notice the noun and the describing word after it both have to be plural. So in other words, they say that something akin to the Reds cars, the Bigs hotels. Any word that talks about a noun has to be in the same form that noun is in. masculine or feminine, singular or plural, but you know, the video will talk to you a little bit about that. And we'll talk a lot more about that too. And you'll see lots of examples. Okay, todo bien? All good?
Todo
Yep.
bien.
So we're gonna focus
Good.
on
Ian?
just,
Okay.
yeah, acquiring, you know, making sure you kind of hone that vocabulary some more. You're gonna practice some vocab for me this week. You're gonna watch some videos about masculine and feminine and singular and plural. And you're gonna do a little practice of turning these things, nouns, into plural. Está bien, good. Maybe learn your 1 through
Sí.
10 numbers. That's it. ¿Sí? Bien?
Okay.
Sí,
Okay, bien.
está bien, muchas gracias.
De
Yes.
nada. Es un placer. Es un placer. It is a pleasure. De nada. De nada. Y
De
nos
nada.
vemos el martes. I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Nos vemos el martes,
Sí,
¿verdad?
nos-
Hola.
sí,
Sí. Ok.
Hasta luego.
sí.
Adiós.
Hasta luego.
Hola.
Hasta luego.
Luego.
Hasta martes.
Hasta
Cuídense.
martes.
Take care of yourselves.
Okay.
Luego.